1923. Germany was devastated by the First World War. The country was in political and economic chaos, and a man begins to gain popularity. His name? Adolf Hitler. A few years later, Hitler and his party ruled Germany and established the Nazi dictatorship, and even started a new world war and conquered almost all of Europe. But how did they manage to do all this? After Germany's defeat in the First World War, things changed drastically. Germany was forced to sign the Treaty of Versailles, which said that Germany was most to blame for the war, and forced her to pay high debts and reparations to the victorious countries, in addition to having lost all of its colonies and several territories in Europe. And the final result of this treaty was total disaster for Germany, which entered political and economic chaos with hyperinflation and several communist and nationalist revolts in its territory. In 1923, several members of the government were in a beer hall in Munich. Adolf and other members of the Nazi Party took the opportunity to try to carry out a coup, but it was not successful, and several members of the party and even Hitler were arrested. But soon after, he was released. As time passed and with the economic crisis of 1929, the Nazi Party and Hitler gained strength. Hindenburg, who was president of Germany, thought he could control Hitler and nominated him to be German chancellor. But something that happened would completely change that country. Overnight, the German parliament was set on fire and destroyed. Adolf took advantage of the opportunity and instituted the Emergency Act, saying that the communists had set fire to the parliament, and that to stop them, the government could persecute opponents, pass laws, and repress freedom of expression. With this, Hitler created the Gestapo, which would be the German secret police, and used it to persecute political enemies and opponents. Hindenburg, who was the only man who could stop Hitler, died, and so the position of president and chancellor became one. Now Hitler was officially the dictator of Germany. Adolf completely changed life in Germany, took away political and speech freedoms, increased the size of the army, and completely modernized it. Externally, Hitler's plans were to expand Germany and regain what it had lost in the First World War. With his internal power already consolidated, and with a large and modern army, Hitler invades Austria, which is inhabited by people with German culture, and annexes it to the Third Reich, the name of Hitler's empire. And a few months later, the Munich Conference was held, in which the British and French, in an attempt to maintain peace, agreed to cede parts of the Sudetenland of Czechoslovakia to Germany, because there were many Germans in that region. If Hitler did not annex other territories after that, but Hitler does not comply with the agreement, and shortly afterwards invades the rest of the country and installs a puppet government there. And at the same time, Hitler also negotiated with the Soviet Union to secretly divide Poland between them, and that both countries would sign non-aggression treaties. The United Kingdom and France were afraid of causing a new war in Europe, and so they did not stop Hitler from conquering new territories, thinking that this would avoid a war, but they reached the limit when Hitler demanded that Poland cede the Polish corridor, which was a territory that divided mainland Germany with this German territory called Königsberg. Poland allied itself with France and the United Kingdom, and made an agreement that if Germany invaded Poland, the United Kingdom and France would declare war on Germany. So confident in the new alliance, Poland refused to cede the territory to Germany, and in September 1939, Hitler invades Poland and occupies half of its territory, while the Soviet Union does the same with the eastern part. A few days after invading and occupying Poland, Hitler invaded the Netherlands, Belgium, and Luxembourg, and caught the French and English off guard, surrounding them in Dunkirk and making most of the British army retreat to the United Kingdom. A few days later, the Germans had already occupied Paris and France surrendered, leaving the United Kingdom alone in the war temporarily. But luckily for the United Kingdom, shortly after, Germany broke the non-aggression agreement with the Soviet Union and invaded it, and also declared war against the United States. Something that was catastrophic for Germany, because militarily and economically, it would not be able to win this war. Over time, the Soviets began to make the German army retreat in the east, while the Americans and British carried out D-Day in occupied France. With the Allied troops advancing on both sides and the German army destroyed, everyone knew it would be a matter of time. until Germany lost and was completely occupied. Then in April 1945, when Soviet troops entered Berlin, Hitler committed suicide, thus causing the war in Europe to end and Germany to be divided among the world powers.